Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's Captain Joe, our YouTube channel here, Fish Bump TV, down at the shipyard with my brother Mark. And you guys saw the episode there a couple weeks ago where we pulled his 42-foot Tayana sailboat. This thing is a monster when you see it out of the water. It is a beast. Mark's getting ready to do. It is a beast. He's getting ready to do some bottom paint or anti-fouling, which is part of what you got to do when you're down here in salt water. And he's also replacing some through hull fittings, which over time in salt water, bronze and stainless steel fittings are going to corrode or they need replacement. And then sometimes you're going to consolidate some of these fittings where you may have ones that were at one point had a purpose and they no longer have a purpose. And that's what's going on up here. Mark has actually been prepping this boat for some new Allgrip paint to freshen the sides up. And you can see where he is actually in the process of grinding out some material and replacing some of these through holes. It's been a chore, hasn't it, brother?
Yeah, I didn't know there was that many.
It's been a chore, man. It seems like boats always turn into a bigger project than you anticipate. But we are down, this boat yard that we are at is amazing. You can see how many folks are down here getting prepped and ready. The summer season is just around the corner and it's time to get your boat in order. But what he's doing, I wanted to show a little bit about some of the glass work we're doing. Obviously there was a through hole fitting in there. Now there's a plug that Mark cut out and he's beveled, and he'll probably do some more grinding and more beveling. But all this stuff is below the water line. And there's two resins you're going to want to use if you're doing below the waterline repair. One, you can use epoxy resin. It's going to bond real aggressively and it's going to be a real good water barrier. But I personally prefer to use a Vinylester resin. And what I like about Vinylesters is they're totally compatible with gelcoat. So if you wanted to do the repair and then go back over it with gelcoat, you can. And I also like Vinylester because it is compatible with what we call matte or CSM. It will melt the binders in that matte, whereas epoxy resin will not. And so generally we don't recommend using epoxy resin if you want to use CSM. And for these kind of repairs, CSM is really good stuff to use. But yeah, so he's also he's got some rudder work going on right now. They're going to be improving some of the function of this thing and some of the hardware and updating and freshening up some of the fasteners and whatnot. And this is a unique transom on this boat. Mark, what do they call this kind of transom?
They call it a canoe stern, mostly canoe stern, but
canoe stern. But I think Mark, you had another.
I call it turtle butt.
Mark calls it a turtle butt. That's a non-technical. Yeah, it's kind of a double, almost like a double ender or a canoe.
They call them double enders too, but canoe stern's pretty common.
Canoe stern or a double ender. But that makes this boat, apparently it helps its seaworthiness if you're doing big oceanic stuff. I mean big water, when you have following seas and you want a boat that's going to help bring that stern up. So this would be a vessel that you could do some serious, I mean, this is something you could cross big water with this boat, couldn't you, Mark?
That's what it's made for.
And do you know the tonnage of this boat, approximately what the weight of this?
About 35,000, which is to be about 17,500 pounds.
All right, so about 35,000.
11,000 just in the keel. It's got a 6-foot draft.
That is
about a 58-foot tall air draft. And
you say 58 feet tall?
Yeah, above the water.
That is a substantial.
It's a cutter rig, so it's got 2 head sails.
All right, so a cutter. Now, Mark, I'll tell you, Mark is more the sailor in the family. I'm more the center console fishing boat guy. Mark has really gotten into the sailing thing over the last few years, and he's got a big 47 Gulf Star that he's fixing up, and that's probably going to be something we're going to get some footage of for you folks as well. But right now this one is getting fixed up, and he's actually going to be putting this one up for sale so he can kind of finance the other project, the 47. He's got big plans for that one. And again, y'all are not going to believe how much work he's doing to it. And at some point we're going to get you guys down to the yard where he's working on that one and take a look. Now you can see they've got this thing propped up and got it on stands where you can work on it, but we're gonna have to set up some scaffolding around here so that we can paint. Mark's gonna be spraying some Allgrip up there on the sides, and he's actually already knocked down the surface, or for the most part, with a 220 grit paper, which is kind of what we like to see, or kind of what I prefer if we're doing spray work with like a linear polyurethane or some other kind of paint system other than gel coat. I like to see 220 grit is a good all around grit to work with. But it's a beautiful boat. It's a beautiful boat. I had to ask him, I'm not familiar with sailboat brands as much as he is, and it's a Tayana. It's a Tayana is how that's spelled, and it's a 42, and the model is a Vancouver.
Yes,
so
center cockpit.
Center cockpit. So maybe some of you sailboat folks that are watching out there might appreciate seeing something a little different than your center consoles and fishing boats. But you can see the size of this vessel compared to my Tundra and compared to a grown man. It's a big, stand back over there, Mark. That is a big boat. That is a big boat. I'd make a fine liveaboard. I tell you what, if it was just a single guy or a couple, or imagine even a couple with a kid, you could certainly live aboard a vessel like that. And growing up, we used to have to bring our shrimp boats and big fishing boats in up on the boat yard periodically and do the bottom paint and barrier coats. And you got zinc anodes. You can see down here there's going to be sacrificial zinc anodes that have to be replaced periodically, and that helps minimize corrosion on some of your more critical parts. And I'm hoping we can come down here. Mark, right now they've just done a power wash on the bottom of this sailboat, just get the marine growth off of there so we can work on it. But Mark is going to be doing a light sand and scuff over this whole bottom, and then we'll be applying 2 or 3 more coats of antifouling bottom paint to freshen it up so that your barnacles and oysters and that kind of marine growth doesn't grow. But that's going to be one of those things that needs to happen last. A lot of people may not know this, but if you're going to be doing an antifouling coating on a boat, you don't want to coat it and then let it sit out in the weather or outside for a long period of time, typically. And there are some that are more tolerant, that are more considered for trailer boats. But a lot of the paints that are designed for big boats that stay in the water all the time, you're going to want to plan on painting them just a day or 2 before you're going to put the boat back in the water, or else it can kind of affect the effectiveness of the actual antifouling paint. So yeah, I thought that would be a pretty cool update. Mark is making some good progress on things. And remember folks, if you're doing any kind of work below the waterline, you're going to want to use a good quality Vinylester laminating resin. This we source from our friends there at Fiberglass Warehouse. They can help you out if you need some of that. They also carry epoxy resins as well. And then a lot of times after you do these repairs, we will go over that surface with an epoxy barrier coat, and that'll prevent blisters from forming in the future. So, all right, Mark, thank you for giving us a tour of your boat, man.
You're welcome.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I'm excited for Mark. This is going to be a big project. It's going to be a lot of fun, and maybe somebody out there be interested in this thing. Just let me know. It's Captain Joe here with Island Marine Charters. My brother Marky Mark down here at the boat yard. We appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, we'll catch you guys next time out.